I noticed that I just couldn't eat any more fruit. Everything sweet, I would just like go on a really mental roller coaster. My body would feel so bad. And yeah, I really noticed just my health getting worse, my mental health getting worse, much more depressed about everything. For example, it took me sometimes just to go grocery shopping. I had to mentally prepare myself for 3 hours to get out of the door, go get groceries, come back, and I was exhausted and I couldn't do anything anymore. So I started noticing and observing these things about me. I thought there is something really going wrong. It was better for me not to eat than eat anything, because I would feel better not to eat, because all those plant food were really damaging me.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Today we have our special guest in here, as is Kasumi. I believe that's how you say it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kasumi. But
hello, welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
Sure, and you are, if I'm not mistaken, I know you're somewhere in Europe. I don't know if for some reason I was thinking it was like the Netherlands or something like that, but I'm not sure. Where was it? Where were you from again?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm in the Netherlands right now, born and raised here.
I got a good memory because I remember seeing you about this a couple of years ago. Anyway, well, it's good to have you. So, thank you for doing this. And I know it's in the evening time there, so hopefully it's not too late. I think it's around, I don't know, 6 p.m., 5 p.m., something like that.
Yeah,
I imagine.
6.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Kasumi, I will just let you start to tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
No, of course. So I'm Kristel, like I said, born and raised in the Netherlands. I've always been a super active and athletic person. Did soccer on a really high levels. And at some point, I got really inspired to go vegan. And that was in 2014, I think. The biggest reason was for me that I had skin issues. It got really, really bad. And I got convinced by YouTube videos to try a vegan diet. And I think in the first couple of weeks, it really, I did see some improvement. But I actually think back now that was because I eliminated all processed foods. Yeah. I think I stayed vegan for 4 years. And it was really in the end of the second year that I really started seeing my health deteriorate. I couldn't do soccer anymore. My joints were aching. Everything I wanted to do, I couldn't do anymore when it came to physical activity. I did train a lot in the gym, but my muscles wouldn't grow anymore. Just everything went downhill physically, mentally. And I never thought to blame the vegan diet. I thought it cannot be the vegan diet because it's so healthy. Yeah. And at some point, I decided in 2018 to try some eggs again, try a little bit of butter again, and I instantly noticed a difference. So I also ate some chicken again, and then added back beef into my diet, and it was just in a couple of days, I felt so much better, mentally, so much more stable right away. And I really thought like the vegan diet's probably not the way to go, so I completely dropped it. I learned about keto, carnivore, started to incorporate so much more meat into my diet, and it wasn't long that I just like recovered so much. And I've been on this diet now for 4 years and only have seen improvements. It's never went downhill from that anymore.
Well, I'm glad you found. How old were you when you ventured into veganism? Because you said you're quite a high level footballer, as you call football, we call it soccer here, competitor. How old were you? And you said you watched YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of these vegan, I call them vegan propaganda films, but there's films, Game Changers, Forks Over Knives, Cowspiracy, on and on. They've made so many of them now to try to convince people. What age were you when you succumbed to the lure of veganism, I suppose?
Yeah, I was about 23 years old. And I think that's also when you're very impressionable at that age. And then since then, 4 years vegan.
There's, if you look at the vegan demographic, it is very heavily weighted towards young females. I mean, that's who the vegan demographic is. I mean, you're seeing some that are getting into their 30s, but when you start looking at people in their 40s and 50s, most people don't do veganism. Men tend not to do veganism. Sometimes they do it to impress a girl. I don't know how impressive that is, but I mean, you see that sometimes. And so you make a very important point, because not only did you cut out eating animal products, but you cut out eating all this processed food, which almost always is what you hear. Eat a whole food vegan diet, which means you're not eating all the junk food. And I think the same thing said for when you eat a carnivore diet. You eliminate all this junk food. And so I think that is the major problem. And the fact that vegans won't admit that. No, it's got to be the meat. And we're like, well, why are these people eating meat getting healthy? Well, it's because they're imagining it or something. I don't know. So you've cut out all this processed food. You do veganism. You feel better for a few weeks. And then at what point did you start to see problems? Because I think it varies for people. Some people can go years and they do fine. Other people within a few months, 6 months, a lot of people within 18 months, they see significant issues. Most people, as you know, quit veganism. They just quit for whatever reason. When did you start to notice things going downhill? And you said it helped to end your soccer career. And was it just because you just couldn't perform very well? You lost ability to strength, speed. What happened?
Yeah. It was, I think after a year or so, I started to see my health decline. I couldn't run as fast anymore. The insight I used to have for soccer wasn't there anymore. Every time I wanted to do something or kick a ball in a certain way, it just wouldn't go the same like I used to do it. And at some point, I also really started to feel my joints aching, and I never had issues with that. Even though all the types of sports that I always used to do in my life, I never had, I rarely would have any injuries, but injuries would start to come. I would be so extremely exhausted after matches as well. And I just couldn't keep up. I went from really the best player on my team to someone that couldn't even keep up with the other girls anymore. And but when I really noticed after a year that I couldn't climb or walk upstairs normally, being afraid to actually maybe even break something or I would definitely injure a joint of mine. That's when I really started to get really scared, because I would do any types of jumping. I would also lift weights and everything. But I remember me being just so scared to pick up weights or walk up the stairs or even jump off a little a step. I would just be so scared to injure myself. And just really, all of that happened after a year.
Did you, when you did have injuries, did it take a long time to recover? Did it seem like it took longer to recover for you?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely so. I noticed I would I think it's called the ankle.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes would twist it,
right,
and I would be weeks just waiting for it to recover. And also with wounds, if I would scratch myself, I noticed the wounds wouldn't recover as quickly as they used to be. So it took everything. Recovery took so much longer than it normally would.
Yeah, there's actually a number of papers in the literature now. There's a particular series out of Italy. One of the dermatologists, plastic surgeons, or maybe a dermatologist. Anyway, she published this series of 4 studies looking at vegan healing versus omnivore healing, and every one of those studies it showed that vegans had much, much lower capacity to heal wounds. So the question, the critics, the vegans out there that would say you were never really a vegan, blah, blah, blah. It's an ideology and ethic, and it's not a diet, all that stuff, would also say that you did it wrong. You were eating just junk food. I mean, were you, or were you eating a whole food plant diet? What kind of stuff were you eating as a vegan?
Yeah, I did it. I think I did it so well. I of course tried many different diets, but I cut out junk food completely. I wasn't big on junk food before that either. For example, when I was 14, I stopped drinking soda. But yeah, I did whole foods, plant-based. I learned about the macrobiotic diet. So I learned exactly how to prepare my vegetables and grains and all of these things. I also tried a raw vegan diet, which was basically worst on my health. I thought it was the most healthiest thing, but it was the worst. I lost my period for 3 months or 4 months. Yeah, I tried all of it: the starch solution, high carb, low fat, raw till 4, like all of these things. I tried them all, and none of those made me feel good. It was always like I tried everything and I did it in the healthiest way possible. I was not a junk food vegan at all. I wouldn't even touch any vegan cookies, but still my health would deteriorate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And you were, I mean, were you, I mean, in this time and age, a lot of us are in social media and sometimes we promote this stuff. Were you on social media talking about veganism at some point?
Yeah, I had a YouTube channel back then already. So my followers, they knew I was a vegan and talked about vegan diet. And I would really promote it, and I would say it's the best thing ever. I feel so amazing, and really push this narrative on people. And I noticed that people would also start to become vegan because of me and what I would share online. So yeah, it was a couple of years that I really was promoting this diet online.
And was your channel in English or in Dutch? I mean, what language, or was it both?
I really did it all in English. Yeah, so I was really talking to an English speaking community.
What is in the Netherlands? I know currently I know they're sort of driving farmers out of business and so on and so forth, and there's a lot of push in there. What is the climate with regard to diet in the Netherlands currently? Is it everybody trying to push everybody to go plant-based? Is that what's going on?
I do see a push towards it. There's so much more commercials on the television to go plant-based. All the fast food restaurants are adding more plant-based options to their meals. Just on, I think, yeah, many people already, I noticed them actually repeating things what vegans would say, or milk is for baby cows. And everybody's basically talking really positively about plant-based eating. But I did see in the numbers that actually people are eating more meat here now than even a year before. So I don't think they're really walking their talk. Mm-hmm. They're promoting it. The television is showing it. They're all trying to push the people in that direction. But I don't think the Dutch people are biting in getting into it so much yet.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about it. And, if you look at the statistics, worldwide veganism is still very low, like 1% of the population worldwide. There's a few countries where it's low, like the UK, I think, has the highest percentage, might be maybe somebody else. But and it's still very low, maybe 2-3% at most. And we are seeing increased meat consumption throughout the world for good reason, because it's good food. So when you went vegan, did you have a lot of support, a lot of people supporting you, saying, good job, great, family, friends? What was that like? Or did they say it's crazy?
Yeah, basically the first responses I got, like, what are you doing? My mom called me an extremist. You cannot be an extremist. My father thought I was crazy. Like he almost yelled at me, like, what are you doing? You cannot do that. And I actually started losing friends just because of the way I behaved. I thought I knew it better. I thought I was doing the right thing, and all of them don't know enough. So I basically started losing my friends by becoming vegan, and I would just consume content online and feeling like they were my friends because I didn't have many people around me that thought this was a good idea. So no, I didn't have much support, but at some point people just started to accept this. I noticed that people didn't really like it. They weren't happy about it, but they accepted it and let me do my thing, basically. There was nobody ever really challenging me on it too, which I find unfortunate. I see it online. Of course, people challenge each other and they have discussions about it, but I unfortunately didn't have anyone around me that would say, that give me good reasons why not to do it and show me some facts or anything. There was nobody around me doing that, unfortunately.
Well, it's interesting because I've had interactions with a lot of vegans. It doesn't matter what facts you show them; they don't care. It's like, I don't believe that your study's fake. It's on and on. There's just excuse after excuse, and all the people. There's one person that thinks that everybody on a carnivore diet is a bot on social media. They're all made up bots, and none of us exist. And so, it makes me kind of laugh when I see that. When, did you get into the whole ideologic side of things? Oh, we're killing less animals, we're saving the environment. Was that part of what you were doing, or was it all purely health-based for skin conditions?
Yeah, initially it was just for my health, but then I watched documentary Earthlings, and then I started to see the animal aspect of it. I know in that documentary they really show the worst of the worst, of course, but that really hit me, and I thought that was also the moment that I went fully vegan. Before that, I might have had some chicken once a week, a little bit of cheese here and there. So yeah, it became a thing for the animals too, and then I learned about the environment, these reasons as well. So yeah, it became an ideology for me too, and yeah, that's also what mostly stuck me to stay on the vegan diet.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people that get wrapped up in the ideology, that even if the health, because I hear a lot of them say it's not about health. Eventually, they'll concede it's not really about improving my health. It's more about saving animals and so on and so forth. And even though they're getting sicker, and they know they're getting sicker, they're still clinging to this sort of belief system, which I think is highly flawed for a number of reasons. Did you? I mean, are there things that you maybe said to other people as a vegan, like that you now regret? Are there any things you say, if I could go back, I would change the way I address folks? Was that ever whatever anything you think about?
Yeah, for sure. I there's so many things, like probably too much to list, but there's so many things I said that I wish I could take back or never said. I know that I was acting like I knew it all, and like every discussion, I thought I had the right answers, and I knew it so much better than them. So I would say. Yeah, also kind of bad things to people. I would find them terrible for eating meat, for example, and you're killing the planet. You're murdering baby cows if you eat dairy. So I would say these things, and I would think it was totally just cool for me to do that. And now I look back on it, and I feel really sorry. I even remember I made this personal message to many people after I quit veganism and said sorry to them, like sorry for how I behaved. Thank you for still being, like, for the people that were still around me. Thank you for being there still for me. And yeah, so I really felt that I had to say sorry to some people around me.
What was the final straw that said, I'm going to put eggs back in my diet? But at what point, where were you at? Like what was the thing that said, okay, I got to do something different? Where were you at? What was going on?
Yeah, I remember it was like 2018, and I noticed that I just couldn't eat any more fruit. Everything sweet, I would just like go on a really mental roller coaster. My body would feel so bad, and yeah, I really noticed just my health getting worse, my mental health getting worse, much more depressed about everything. For example, it took me sometimes just to go grocery shopping. I had to mentally prepare myself for 3 hours to get out of the door, go get groceries, come back, and I was exhausted and I couldn't do anything anymore. So I started noticing and observing these things about me. I just felt like a shadow of my former self. So I thought there is something really going wrong. And at some point, I was just eating coconut fat. I had a raw vegan protein shake, and I drank coconut water. And that's all I was like that I could have, because anything else would upset my stomach. I would be bloated, I had pains and everything. So I noticed also myself losing so much weight because of doing that. But it was better for me not to eat than eat anything, because I would feel better not to eat, because all those plant food were really damaging me. And yeah, at some point, I didn't even know where to look anymore for advice or health. Yeah, I think then because I always was consuming vegan content, I would always just go to the vegan sources. Now I thought I should maybe listen to someone that is not vegan, just try to be a little bit open-minded and listen to someone that is trying to improve their health, who is actually consuming some animal products. And actually, the biggest push for me was listening to Michaela Peterson and her story about how she dealt with her health problems, and how eating only meat basically helped her so much. And it was such a crazy idea for me to listen to her talk about that. And then also her father that I saw on a podcast talking about this. And I thought this cannot be true, but I still listened to it. I still was very open-minded. And I think after 2 weeks or so, I thought, yeah, I'm just going to try some eggs. What could eggs do to me? I don't think I will get poisoned right away, because I thought anything animal-based would literally poison me and I would like really crazy. I was thinking about it. But then, yeah, I went to the store, got some eggs, got some butter, and prepared that. And it was, yeah, literally Michaela Peterson gave me that push, but it was also me finally opening up a little bit to information outside of the vegan realm.
Hey folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. If you guys are enjoying these success stories, well, you can become your own success story. You can do that by heading over to Carnivore.diet. You can sign up for a free 30-day trial and get started today. We're looking forward to supporting you. Our community is wonderful, and we'd love to see your success. Prior, you said you were consuming vegan source and sort of looking for answers there. I mean, who did you look to, like Dr. Grieger or Greger or there's a lot of vegan doctors. Who were you getting your information from? Were there any physicians that you were listening to?
Yeah, like that guy, Dr. Greger. I listened to him on YouTube. It has been 4 years since I listened to all of these people, so I can't remember their names, but I think there was the man, Dr. McDougall, or something about the starch solution.
Yep.
There was also Neil Bernard. These types of people, I was listening to them for health. Of course, I would also listen to some alternative health people that were about raw veganism and stuff, and they were kind of more woohoo type of people that I listened to as well. So a mixture of these doctors and about kind of fringe type of vegan people that were talking on the internet is where I got my information from. Okay.
And so, because you said you tried all kinds of different things, and we often see that, vegans will go on the diet and then things aren't working, their health goes bad, and then they start trying every variety they can possibly think of until they finally exhaust everything and they're like, I can't do anything else and I'm still sick. So you eat the eggs, eggs and butter. How did, you said fairly quickly you felt better. I mean, was there a difference could you digest it better? I mean, because you said everything you were eating was making you sick physically with your intestines and stuff like that. Was there a difference in how you digested and that type of stuff?
Yeah, that I noticed right away, basically, that I felt more satiated. I didn't feel like full and bloated anymore. Like I would eat animal products and I would feel like, I feel satisfied after eating, and the pains would slowly get less and less. So I noticed that instantly with eating eggs, and this might sound really strange, but I remember that when I was eating eggs and butter, I felt like this tingly sensation up my spine, and I just felt like everything became more colorful. It was like almost as if I was on drugs or something. And then 2-3 days later, I had chicken for the first time, and that was just like such an amazing experience. It sounds so strange, but it felt so good and satiating, and it was just my body was craving that for such a long time. And I just noticed that all these troubles I would have with all these plant foods were getting less and less and less. And it felt like just I was getting the nutrients that I really always really needed.
There's a lot of data now showing that, plant-based diets, particularly vegan diets, are associated with mental health disorders. Some say it's 2 to 1 or something like that, a lot of depression and that stuff. Does that surprise you, that data, and knowing what you went through? And how did your mental health change when you started including animal products again?
Oh yeah, that right now it doesn't surprise me at all, because I've been through that as well mentally. It took me several months to really get rid of also that dogma I had about food. But I also, I've seen some of these studies as well. Like people who have very low cholesterol tend to have mental health issues, and I noticed that myself too. I think I developed. I was never diagnosed with anything. I would not go to the doctor, but I think I had some forms of bulimia. I would throw up my foods and stuff because it didn't feel well. Just the way I thought about people and saw the world, everything was much more gray. I was much more aggressive with people and unpleasant. And I'm a really happy, bubbly person from myself. Mm-hmm. So just like be like that to people was even shocking to me. But I think there's a clear connection with eating a vegan diet, low in fats and proteins, that really affects you mentally.
Yeah, I mean, you can just tell you're happy personally interacting with you now. So, I mean, it's tough to imagine you being sad and that type of stuff and what a difference it makes in your life. And so, you said, vegan diet, you said for a couple of weeks you felt better, and then you started to see your health go down fairly soon. Now, you've been on this more meat-based diet now for 4 years, and you haven't seen a drop in your health. It's been good, correct?
Not correct. It's always, it just goes up and up and up, and I'm always still surprised. Like, when is it going to go bad? I don't think that's going to happen. But no, I've seen everything just improve. I have a gut of steel right now. I can basically eat anything, and I don't have any issues. Physically, mentally, everything just keeps on getting better. And I'm basically eating I eat a lot of meat. So that's probably the base, the bottom of my food period, just meat, then eggs. I will have also a lot of dairy. The dairy is amazing here in the Netherlands, very, very good quality. I also have raw dairy from the farm. I will get it too. And also all my meat, most of the meat I will just always get at the farm as well. I've not seen anything to be worried of. There have been no side effects to eating this way that I have experienced. It's just like sometimes if I sleep well and I have my stress under control sometimes because I have an active life of working and doing YouTube and those kinds of things. And when I eat just only meat and eggs, basically, I feel like I've been drinking coffee all the time, but without the jitters. I'm just so energetic. And I just like go through my day without any dips as well. It's just energy level is super stable. And that's so amazing because you can get so much done. And I also notice from people, why are you so happy all the time? Do you have so much energy? And then sometimes I will explain to them about my diet and they're like, what, do you only eat meat and eggs? And I'm like, yes. Do you eat any vegetables? And I'm like, no, not at all. For 4 years, I haven't eaten any vegetables, and it's totally possible. And you feel so amazing just on this diet.
Yeah, I like I said, I've been experiencing it for 6 years myself, and I totally agree. Do you? So, what about athletic stuff? Because you're playing. Have you gotten back out on the soccer field, or are you doing weightlifting or training, or what's going on athletically? How's your body performing?
Yeah, I would say that it's like with when I was a vegan, I would train like almost 5 times a week and do so much effort to get some certain PRs with lifting weights and everything. But it would take such a long time to improve. And now, since I've been eating the way I'm doing right now, hitting new PRs with weightlifting and everything is so much more easy now. So I do, for example, deadlifting. I'm just over 60 kilograms and I'm 170 centimeters. And my best right now is 122 kilograms that I can deadlift. And that's just, I remember when I was vegan, I trained for almost 6 months or 7 months to get there. And then I stopped lifting weight for, I think, a year. Because I was really recovering from my vegan diet and stuff. So I thought I should take it easy on that too. And then I started again. And in 2 or 3 weeks, I got back up to my PR again. And I just went from there. And weightlifting is so much more fun and enjoyable. I did not continue soccer anymore because I'm actually a bit, I try to not do so much cardio because I think that kind of, I lose weight too quickly, you could say. So with this diet, it's sometimes really hard for me to put on weight. I need to eat extra and do more weight training. So I stay away from cardio. And when it comes to just the fat distribution in my body, it's just such an improvement as well. Because when I went vegan, all my feminine curves just went away. My boobs shrank, my hips just disappeared, and I started to look more boyish. And not long after I put animal foods back in my diet, just the fat distribution is great again. Like I filled up again, muscles back again with not as much effort in the gym as I was doing before. So that's all just so amazing, just to be athletic again with this diet. I don't feel like I'm tearing down my body anymore. It's just improving and getting stronger.
Yeah, I mean, that's, so you said, how much did you say you weigh? You had 60, how many kilos?
I think right now I'm 63 kilograms
63,
to be
okay.
exact.
So about 130 pounds, and you're deadlifting close to 270 pounds. So that's pretty solid. That's great. That's a double body weight deadlift. So good for you. That's pretty impressive. Do you, so what, you mentioned energy, better focus. So now, what are your parents saying now? It's still too crazy, extreme, now once you're vegan, now you're crazy carnivore. Is your dad happy you're eating meat now, or are they thinking you eat vegetables? What's going on with that?
My mom is definitely a lot happier that I can eat her food again sometimes. Unfortunately, my father passed away in the beginning of this year.
Oh, sorry to hear.
But I remember that, he would be very happy that I could sit down with him, and if he would offer me something like some sausages or whatever, he would be just thrilled about it again. And he was really happy to see me looking healthier again as well, because he also noticed that I physically was deteriorating so much. And my parents were both so scared that I was having some illness or anything, and they wanted to take me to the doctor often. So for my father, he was really happy that I physically looked better again. And my mom noticed that as well. And also that, we could just have a nice meal all together at the dinner table again, and we can eat and share the same foods again. I think was one of the most important things, that we could all sit down together again and eat the same foods.
Yeah, that's good to see. So, you're on YouTube. I guess you still have your YouTube channel. Did you get when you said, hey, can't be vegan anymore because I'm too sick, was there a lot of backlash? I know a lot of vegans have had, how dare you keep trying, and what have you had some vegans that used to say, hey, I added meat back too? What's been the experience on social media?
Yeah, I remember it was a crazy period when I told my following that I quit the vegan diet. I also just immediately, a day after, I just made a video and sent it to the world right away. But I got death threats, people saying that they would want to look, they would find me, and crazy comments like that. And I was just so shocked that people could respond a certain way just because someone didn't feel healthy and wants to feel healthy, and just incorporated some animal products back into their diet. But there was also a lot of comments that people were really happy for me, and finally you quit the vegan diet. They saw me also like that I was kind of deteriorating, you could say, over the years on YouTube, and they were really glad for me. But it was initial period of time. I got really bad comments on YouTube, on Twitter, and it was so scary to me in the beginning. I had a vegan friend, and she dropped me immediately. She sent me a message and said really awful stuff to me, and she never spoke to me again. So it was kind of a roller coaster in the beginning. Definitely on YouTube, I lost a whole bunch of subscribers, but also a whole bunch of subscribers came back at the same time while me coming out with this story. So it was a little bit up and down, but from there on, it was just very positive. Everything the whole time, people were glad. I saw also people who were following me who actually went vegan because of me, then incorporated meat back into the diet, and they were really happy they did. And I'm glad that I could have made this influence for people that have been vegetarian or vegan their whole life, and they actually push themselves, or like they were open-minded enough to eat some animal products again and start to feel better. So I'm glad I made that impact as well. So in the beginning it was a bit tough and negative, but then I saw like all these positivity and positive comments shining through.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of vegans will say that, you know, they're compassionate, and why they do what they're doing is because they have compassion, they're nice people and live kindly and all this sort of stuff, and yet they make death threats to you. Was there some sort of disconnect with that? Like, how can these people who are supposed to be so loving and compassionate and caring about everything and the planet and animals and human health all of a sudden start making death threats to you? Did that sort of set off some red flags to you?
Oh, immediately, yes, because I thought, like you said, these people claim to be very compassionate and they want to do good and want to be kind, but suddenly, if you don't align with their ideology, if you don't align with their opinions, then they say really bad things towards you and they become not so compassionate anymore. So if you're in their group, in their boat, they will be sweet and kind to each other. Well, I know there's kind of a lot of bickering going on in their community themselves, and they're not always kind to each other either. But especially to people outside of that boat, they get so mad and angry, and I sometimes just think they're really hungry and they get grumpy and they lash out on everybody around them. So in that way, yeah, you cannot blame them so much. But I've noticed that as well. Like they should be really kind and compassionate people, but they don't reflect that in their behavior most of the times.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame to see that come out. It's kind of because no one needs to be subjected. And I've had the same sort of thing said about me over time. It doesn't bother me. I could care less because I don't take them any seriously. But do you find that you know, like you said, before you would spend 3 hours thinking about going to the grocery store, and then you'd go and be exhausted, and you probably spend a lot of time preparing meals. I mean, I assume this carnivore style is much easier, simpler for you. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it's so much easier. I would spend so many hours in the kitchen chopping and soaking and doing all these food preparations and then not even feeling satisfied afterwards. But now it's just I'll get a steak, some eggs, put them in the pan in a couple of minutes ready, and I'm eating already. Sometimes I even have some meat raw. So it's so quick and easy. And yeah, I can spend my time doing other things, but still get good foods in. It's still satiating. It's still so nutritious, but I don't need to spend hours in the kitchen to do that anymore. It's so much easier.
You know, you'd mentioned the reason you went on a vegan diet initially was a skin issue. I'm not sure what, maybe it was eczema or something. You didn't really mention the details. How has your skin been impacted by changing to a meat-based diet?
I had severe acne when I was, I think, 21 somewhere. I stopped birth control pill. And then afterwards, I got just an insane amount of acne. I was just full from my forehead to my neck, just full of bumps and cysts, and it really made me unhappy. So then I went vegan. I noticed some improvement, but then afterwards, I noticed my skin getting drier, and I started to look gray. Just all the plumpness from my skin also just disappeared. I just looked super unhealthy. And then when I started eating more carnivore diet, animal-based diet, I noticed my skin getting plumper again, more colorful. Acne just like vanished. I sometimes will get a little spot here and there, but it's never like a big breakout on my face anymore. Just by eating this way, not even like doing like skincare routines or like buying expensive products to put on my face. It's mostly just been my diet and having my stress levels under control that just improved my skin so much. I've not like have had any severe acne breakouts on my skin anymore.
Yeah, one thing I guess you mentioned, because you're not having to spend money on all these expensive skin products. You know, a lot of, and there's a multi-billion dollar industry with skincare, particularly for women, and you know, because people will say, well, you know, the carnivore diet is too expensive. It can't do it. Now you're in the Netherlands. I don't know what the meat prices are like there. In the U.S., they're still relatively cheap compared to a lot of other countries. How has this been affordability wise for you? Or is it hard to afford this diet in where you live?
I think for me personally, because yeah, I really put priority on my foods. and don't spend much money on other things that are expensive. For example, for me, it's all very affordable. But I do notice that, especially nowadays, the prices in the supermarket themselves have gone up. So meat is getting expensive. I saw, for example, chicken thighs double the price now. But the key here is going to the farm and going to the butchers, because there the prices are much more affordable and you can get a lot more meat than you would at a normal supermarket. So that is where I get my meats from, much better quality and so much more affordable. So I think you can really tweak it to your likings. There's always a place where you can find better deals than somewhere else. So I think it's for people, it's really taking your time to look into where you can find the best prices. I do think in the Netherlands, prices have gone up, but at the butcher, at the farm, I can get so much good quality stuff for a lot cheaper than in the supermarket.
Which, if you don't mind sharing, what part of the Netherlands do you live in? Do you live in Amsterdam? I mean, are we all familiar with Amsterdam? But where do you live? What part, if you don't mind?
Yeah, it's in the west, so south of Holland. It's really the busiest area of the Netherlands, close to The Hague. I don't know if anybody knows.
I've been to The Hague, so yeah, I've been to The Hague. Yeah.
So in that area.
Okay, very good. Fat. How important is fat for you in the diet? You're not consuming. Do you make an effort to eat a really higher fat version of the diet, or do you just kind of eat meat and just eat the fat that comes with it, or do you attempt to add fat into the diet?
I noticed that for me in the beginning, I would crave it very much. So I would have a lot of fat. I would have like chunks of butter this big on my meat. I would slap butter on everything. I would cook things in tallow. I would use lard. I would put spoonfuls in, sometimes in a little bit of meat broth, of butter or lard. So I was just craving it the whole time. So I ate a very high amount of fat. I think in the first 2 years, especially, also a lot of cream. And then slowly it tapered off. Like slowly I started to notice myself to not really need it anymore and not crave it so much anymore. So right now I don't do an effort to have a lot of fat in my diet, but I do notice if I have a little bit extra, I do feel better. And I think it works very well for me to have some extra fat in my diet. But I really go off of like kind of what my body feels like. There will be periods of time I will have a lot extra, and periods of time I just don't really feel like I need it.
You had mentioned when you were on vegan, you'd lost your menstrual cycle for a period of time, and I don't know if maybe you had irregularities throughout the time you're on vegan. Has that changed, improved, from your perspective as a female on a carnivore diet?
Yeah, I'm on the dot. Like I know exactly, I don't need to write it down. I know exactly when my period is coming. So I've never been irregular. It's always exactly on the dot, a very stable, healthy hormonal cycle.
Not all women, a lot of women have, premenstrual dysphoria and symptoms, and it's for a lot of them, it's a miserable period of time for a week or so. Has that changed for you? Or, I mean, I don't know if you ever had issues with that premenstrual syndrome or things like that. Has that gotten to where it's non-existent?
Yeah. That's, I like that question very much, because I did experience, I don't think I would be very grumpy or angry, but I would feel just so much more low, more depressed before it. I wanted to spend time by myself, and luckily I never really experienced painful cycles. But during my vegan days, I would have experienced a couple of those, feeling really bad pain in my stomach right before my period came. So I did notice, right before I would get my period, just feeling a lot lower, a lot worse. But now I basically don't have it. I sense in my body that I'm gonna get my period. I will feel it a little bit, and that's it. But I basically act exactly like I do on my good days. And also some people just notice that from me. Like they would tell me about how they are feeling when they get their periods, and I just cannot relate to that anymore, because I just don't experience those really big dips right before I get my period.
Do you have any issues did you have any negative side effects when you went on a carnivore diet? Like some people will feel like they're dehydrated or have some a lot of people ask about gastrointestinal symptoms. I say, well, you got to be constipated all the time because you're not eating any fiber essentially because you said you're not eating vegetables or anything like that. So any issues with digestive troubles?
No, those only have gotten better. So I really don't. Yeah, I think probably there must be some spot for some people that maybe fiber helps, but I noticed that I can go without completely. And I have not experienced any digestive issues in the long run. I think in the beginning, because I transitioned and still had a lot of recovery to do, that's where the issues happened. But just being consistent over time, just stools pass really smoothly, easily. I don't have constipation issues. And somewhere I think maybe, being hydrated enough, but also consuming enough fat. I noticed that really helps for a good digestion for me, particularly. So I've not experienced issues with that. And I also think just consuming enough or like being hydrated enough also is not an issue for me. I think meat itself already, like I don't cook my meat fully, so it will be still kind of medium rare sometimes. I think that helps, and also consuming raw milk helps. So I'm not experiencing any issues with that.
Do you give any thought to, well, let me ask, because you said you're about 63 kilos, so that's 132, 138 pounds or something like that. How much food do you eat a day? Do you know volume-wise what you're eating, or do you keep track of that or have an estimate?
Well, yeah, I could kind of tell you what I eat, but I don't know how much it is. But as breakfast now, I will have 4 eggs and I think maybe more than 200 grams, 250 grams of bacon, for example. In a midday, it could be a steak with eggs, and that could be like 3 eggs, and maybe the steak could be like more than 200 grams. And then, basically in the evening, it's the same. So I think I will have 3 meals a day. I don't snack. And then sometimes I will have more eggs or more meat. Yeah, I don't track calories either. I really go off how I feel when I eat. But basically 3 meals a day, I could have about like 8 to 10 eggs sometimes a day. Yeah, I think that's roughly how I could explain what I eat in a day.
That's certainly a decent amount. Certainly a lot of eggs. I mean, that's what I eat that much a day. I mean, it doesn't bother me. Many people would say, "Oh my God, 8 eggs a day. That's crazy." And then, of course, a pound or so of meat or something like that. So a decent amount of food for sure. And you're satisfied with that. You maintain your weight easily. It sounds like. In fact, you sometimes have to eat more to keep your weight on. Yeah. What about, you mentioned, you didn't have trouble with hydration. Are you putting salt on food? Do you have electrolytes in your diet, or how do you maintain? Do you worry about sodium or salt?
I do sometimes make an effort to have some extra salt, especially when I exercise a bit more often than usual. And also I noticed just it helps kind of with the plumpness in my skin to add some extra salt to my diet. But that's also sometimes I have periods where I just don't really add it and don't really feel like I want to have it. But then other periods of times I would sprinkle a bunch of salt on my meals. So it goes kind of up and down with that as well. But I think salts are important in your diet. I try to have just natural sea salt, no processed type of salts. And I feel really good adding that to my diet.
If you could sort of rate your overall health and function on a vegan diet, 1 to 10, 10 being the best and 1 being the worst, and compare it to how you feel on a carnivore diet, how would you rate a vegan diet 1 to 10? How would you rate a carnivore diet 1 to 10 based on how you perceived your health to be?
Now, compared to it now, I would say definitely a 2. It was so just terrible, especially just the last couple of years. It was so bad compared to how I feel now. I'm just so stunned and amazed sometimes still today, and so grateful for the way I feel right now compared to how I felt back then. It was just very terrible how I would feel back then compared to now. Yeah, so I would say a 2.
Yeah, and then today you would say what? What about today? Where would you be?
Like 11. Like it would be just above. Like wow. Yeah.
All right. So as good as you could imagine. So it's interesting, because we keep hearing everybody saying, "Well, meat is bad for us." I mean, there's obviously a lot of people talking about that. So you would, I guess, disagree with that. Fair to say.
Oh, completely. Like meat is the best food you can have. It's like I sometimes when I go a bit too long without having meat, I feel vegetarian again. Like I feel vegan again. It feels like there's something missing. So meat should be like, for me, it definitely should be a staple. I can have it at every meal. I'm not scared of any side effects. It's the healthiest food you can have.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I'm getting hungry for my my refeed. It's been I haven't had food in about 3 hours right now, so I'm getting hungry right now. So it's good though. Well, I'll tell you what. Where are you located on? So you still have a YouTube channel, social media. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Kasumi Kriss. I haven't been so active the last couple of or the last 2 years because my father was very ill. But I'm actually starting to pick that back up now. So you can find me on YouTube, Kasumi Kriss. I am also on Instagram, Kasumi Kriss. So I'm picking all back up. I'm picking back up social media, and I also want to start talking more about my experience with the diet, because so many people keep asking me about this particularly and how I'm doing, if I still feel healthy, and why don't I eat vegetables and stuff. So I would love to make some more content on that. You can find that on Kasumi Kriss on YouTube and on Instagram.
Well, you certainly look happy and healthy, and I'm glad you found what's working for you. And it's so good that you had the mental strength to say, let me try something new. And some people, it takes them a long time, sometimes never. So good for you. And you just look like a wonderful advocate. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thanks for sharing your story. Good luck with continuing what you're doing. And hopefully maybe we'll talk to you down the road. Okay, Kasumi?
Yeah, thank you so much. Also, thank you for inviting me. I think you're also sharing an amazing message. I've been following you for many years online, and I hope you also keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
I'm not going anywhere. So thanks so much. All right, guys, we'll see everybody back tomorrow. You guys have a great day. Thanks everybody for being here. Bye now.